All right, guys, I am here with actor Nathan Baesel and writer. Am I getting the pronunciation right of your last name? David Stieve?
Stevie. I'm the
Stevie,
guy with
okay.
two first names. Yeah.
That's why I asked, because then I'm into a lot of foreign movies too, Italian especially, so I could have read that as Stieve, what,
Yeah,
not
that's
knowing.
my
Oh,
Italian alter
Yeah,
nice. Let's
ego.
go
Yeah.
that. Let's do
Yeah.
that
My
one.
let's
yeah.
call him
Oh,
Stieve from
Steve.
now on. That's what we're going to do. Yeah, you're David Stieve for the rest of this. David Stevie. Great to have you
But you
guys
got to do it
on.
like this. You got to do the whole.
Yeah, with the hand. Yeah, I'm Italian, so
Bellissimo,
I talk with my
bellissimo,
hands
bella.
often.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great to have two people on because the last few interviews I had on Italian speakers, Sergio Martino, the director, and Ernesto Gastaldi, screenwriter, and they don't really speak much English. So they're still sitting on my hard drive having to edit it. This is great having English people back on. As soon as it's done, I can up this later tonight. It's all good. No translating.
I'm
Very,
not going
very
to promise that you're going to
beneficial.
have less editorial problems with our interview than you did with the last one.
Yeah, absolutely. But so yeah, Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. I've always been a huge slasher fan. That's how I started with horror, with Halloween at 6 years old. Then I got into Friday and the Friday series, and then it was just off to the races with that. And this movie, it's such a creative film. The script is so brilliantly written. It's very witty. It's very layered. It's very dense. But it's also just a blast to watch. And Nathan, your performance has a lot to do with that. I mean, I feel like your performance not makes or breaks the movie, but relies heavily on you because we get a glimpse at Leslie Vernon, and he's an up and coming serial killer. And you guys deconstructed the whole slasher genre in such a fun way and addressing all these tropes. So how did the idea for this come about? The whole Take us back to the beginning.
Well, I logged into Chat GPT and I said, "Write me a movie."
That
No,
would be today.
we sound like we're on kind of a similar track, JT. Halloween's always been my number one go-to.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely a child of the 80s. So is Scott Glosserman. I mean, that's where that's where we cut our teeth, no pun intended.
Yeah.
And I was, carrying that with me, and I had moved to Los Angeles in 1999. This is about 2001. And I was just sort of having an existential crisis moment of like, what am I doing out here? Is this the right thing? Should I move back home, get a real job, quote unquote? And it sort of morphed into this analogy of, I think, Halloween was definitely playing like in the background. It was just kind of like, that's background noise to me. It's kind of like my ASMR in a weird way. I don't know if you have the same thing, but like you just pop those movies on and let them roll.
Oh, absolutely, all the time.
Yeah,
almost every night. Like if I'm editing stuff and working on something, there's always a movie playing, music or a movie, and you may not be fully paying attention to it, but maybe it has a great score or music or just something that fills the background. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that was sort of the comfort food playing, and to soothe my soul in the background, and it led to this sort of existential thought process of like, man, did Michael Myers ever question his life choices? Like, did he, when he was starting out, was he like, maybe I shouldn't do this? Maybe I should, go back to work at the factory. And it just became an analogy for any young artist or any young creative person, or frankly, anybody who's trying to do something that's a little off the beaten path. Like if you want to be the first person in your family to go to college, if you want to be the first person in your family who doesn't become a doctor, or a lawyer, if you want to be somebody that wants to, pursue a really avant-garde art background instead of business, like anybody who's struggling with those initial stages, it just blossomed in my head like, okay, well, I'm going to examine that, but through the lens of an up-and-coming slasher killer who wants to join the ranks of Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees. And it was always set in that world. It was never parody. It was never poking fun at slashers. Jason and Michael and Freddy, they're real people to Leslie Vernon. They're his mentors.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a meta film world.
Yeah, they're in the world of the movie.
Yeah, and I wrote it really quickly, and the analogy was really clear. And I got it, through all the machinations of Hollywood, it found its way to Scott Glosserman, thank God, who, he saw it and he got it, and he's like, okay, we're going to do this. And he sort of, between he and I, we kind of willed the thing into existence. And then Nathan, as you mentioned, came in and brought Leslie Vernon to life. You know, I think
Absolutely.
it's not hyperbole to say that what Nathan has done has held up over 20 years, and he has created an iconic character. I mean, it's not, you know, I'm not trying to make grandiose comparisons, but people know Nathan as Leslie Vernon. They recognize the mask, they see the character, they know the name, and that's hard to do in independent horror. So a lot of things came together to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, Nathan, your performance is just unreal in this. From just because you have to nail so many different emotions through this. You have comedic timing that's excellent throughout all of this. The way and just the way that
which
you're
is weird because he's not
enthused.
funny. He's not funny in real life. So it's
No,
so
I'm
strange
not.
that he's
I'm not
he's
at
so-
all. I've never. I don't. I have to
Yeah.
have somebody else giving me funny.
like material
Honestly,
or
I
something.
can't. I don't know if it's a genetic thing or whatever, but I don't have the mechanism to be funny on my own. It's weird.
Yeah, I would never
should
get
be-
that.
it should be
and I think
studied.
you
It really
underestimate yourself a bit too, because I mean, some of the lines you deliver just in this movie and stuff, and it's a shame we don't see more of you, all of you guys, and Glosserman in the horror genre. I don't know if horror, you all are big into horror, if you had other ambitions, I know you did, but it's always been a crime to me. This movie's 20 years old, so congratulations on 20 years since this movie came out. But it was always a crime to me that none of you guys got recognized and did a lot more, because what you did with this movie is really mind-blowing. Because of I was never a big Scream fan, but because that movie is like what you were saying, you're not poking fun at the slasher genre, you're like dissecting it. Scream feels more like a parody and like it is making fun at slashers. I never was a Scream fan at all. It's a running gag. This meta stuff, I mean, in a way, it's like you said, it's in the world, but meta is a good way to kind of describe it. And the fake documentary feel, all of that is so original. So, I mean, was that always a goal from the beginning to do it in that format where it switches in the third act of the movie, literally when they say the documentary's over, and then it switches to a conventional film, to a conventional slasher movie? Was that format always there?
No. When I wrote the first drafts of it, the original conception of it, the original script that Scott read, it ended at the scene where Leslie is they're in the attic and the kids are there, and he turns the camera and says, "Time to dance with the devil," and he disappears and goes and makes his first kill. Like that was where the script ended. And it was sort of this epilogue of like, Leslie Vernon went on to massacre 13 kids that night, and his legend has grown. Like the point was that it ended where you knew every horror slasher film started. I was like, we don't need to do it. Like everybody knows what comes next. I just wanted to show,
exactly.
And with documentary was always there. The documentary aspect of it was, in order to explore a writer's journey and to see the struggles and what's really going on, and to make it relevant to humans, at a sort of a storytelling level, that really couldn't be omniscient. You had to have someone like Taylor Gentry to be the avenue by which the audience accessed Leslie, if that makes sense. So that was the documentary part was always by design. What happened in the development phase, and I credit this a lot to Scott, because when he came in, we went back and forth a lot, and it was one of our sort of meetings, we were trying to figure out like how to tweak this or get it right, and we weren't even in production yet. And it just somehow, we kind of both don't remember how it happened, but it sort of clicked that it was like, man, we need a third act. And we sort of had this moment where like, my God, we've laid out the blueprint for the third act. He's said exactly what he's going to do. So now all we have to do is just go back and execute what Leslie said he was going to do. Yeah. And then in there, that became, spoiler alert, it's 20 years if you don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen it by now, guys, and we just did a watch along last night, a live watch along of it.
So the final piece of that puzzle that dropped into place was, oh my God, it's Taylor. Like, of course it's been her the whole time. And so that was a part of the development with Scott and I. So that was that's good collaboration does that.
No, absolutely. I mean, like I said, the script is probably the highest point of this movie, the best aspect of this film that I love so much, and your performance, Nathan. So, I mean, how did you get into acting, and how did you get led to this project, and how did you get into this role? Because like you said, you don't think you're funny. I think you're funny naturally, but in the movie at least. and it looks like it came easy to you. But how did you get into this crazy role where you have to play many different emotions? The
I've
enthusiasm, especially, like how
well,
enthused,
the
because this is his
enthusiasm was,
profession.
yeah, it, you were using the word fun a lot when you were
Mm,
describing the movie. And I think that that's something that came really naturally because the script just read fun. Um, and it felt like it was also funny.
yeah,
And I felt like it could it could be a vehicle for being something that's as broad as a Christopher Guest kind of style of humor, sense of humor.
mm,
The humor that I've always gravitated towards is stuff that isn't punchliney, and da dum bump.
yeah,
It's been stuff where people have created some really really extreme characters, but they've been grounded in some sense of truth, and that has always been the quickest way to make me laugh is somebody who's just acting completely absurd, but not playing it absurdly, playing it genuinely,
yeah.
and
Organically,
with
like
a
that's them.
that's them, right? Monty Python is
Yeah,
probably the best expression of my sense of humor for that reason. It's the characterizations are so extreme, but they're played
yeah,
so straight, and I just dig it. And it felt like it was specifically an opportunity to be as extreme as possible, but keep it grounded. Well, what's it grounded in? It's grounded in something that's already absurd. I'm a soon to be slasher legend, and I'm inviting a documentary crew to follow me around. I mean, that's already embedded in the situation is total absurdity.
yep,
So the way to make the turn up the volume on that is to, instead of apologize for this thing that I'm doing, to just be so fucking happy that
yeah,
this is happening. I mean, isn't it awesome? Isn't it awesome?
yeah,
And
yeah,
this isn't just awesome for me. This is awesome for you too. This is going to
yeah.
make your career. Isn't this fucking exciting? You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
that seemed to me, and I think the net result of that was that it invited the audience in to kind of relate to somebody that might have been somebody that they might have kind of kept at a distance a little bit. I think that they allowed themselves to relate to the character a little more, which in my opinion it just makes, when he starts doing all this stuff that he's been talking about all this time, more jarring for them.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact, like I said, like how enthusiastic, this is his profession, like this is his legacy in his mind. So he, just like with the Ahab, the way they're jumping up and down, we got an Ahab, and they're jumping up. She doesn't even know what an Ahab is, Taylor, and they're jumping up and down like he lives, breathes this, and it's so important to him. And you do spend so much time with him behind the mask before the events eventually transpire at the farmhouse, that you can't help but feel for him in a way, and relate to him. And that does make it a little more tragic. And you can see Taylor doing the same exact thing. You can see Taylor having not really feelings, but conflicting feelings, and seeing that there is good in him in some way. If he did
Look,
anything else and picked any other career and put as much effort into it as he does with doing this, I mean, who knows what he could have done. That's what I think also adds to the character, and you play that very well.
I think people all can relate to being around somebody who's so um, enthusiastic, it's infectious.
Mhm.
And Scott Glosserman, the director, he is that kind of person.
Yeah,
He's so excited about what he's doing, that he's just the most magnetic cheerleader, and you 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 get energized by his energy.
yeah,
Um, he's just so excited about what he's doing, and we all want to be around that person. We all want to spend more time with that person. I think that that's something that makes Leslie relatable. Stevie was talking about the artist's experience being the kind of spark of inspiration for the metaphor for Leslie Vernon and his journey. And it was the same for me as an aspiring professional actor. This was an opportunity to be really excited about where my career was and where it might be going. And
I think JT too, you hit on something that is, I think, also kind of baked in, that we didn't really know it at the time, but over 20 years, it's become it's ripened so perfectly that there is an inherent love story between Leslie and Taylor.
Yeah, a twisted one, right? A tragic one there.
Yeah, and there's Shakespearean or Greek kind of quality to it, but it's also it harkens back to what we keep talking about, this metaphor. And Nathan talking about being excited to be there as an actor, and Scott as a director, and we were all having the time of our lives. We were all young artists, and we're like, oh my God, we're doing this. And there's a part of it that I think reflects in Taylor's character, that the way she's interacting with Leslie, we're drawn to people who are, following their bliss, as Joseph Campbell would say. I mean, Campbell's a pretty big influence on my, sort of philosophy of life. And he very clearly outlines, you need to find the thing that you love to do, and you need to pursue it. And if you do that, and if you commit to that, then the doors will open up and things will align to help you with that. If it's when we fight what we want to do that our lives sort of become stagnant and we experience a lot of inner sort of turmoil. Now that doesn't mean you get to lay around on the couch and say, I want to, drink beer and watch golf all day.
Yeah, and that's your dream.
You have to be productive. You have to be contributing something. Yeah. But I think that's, we inherently respond to that when we see it in other human beings. And that's not only what happens to Taylor with Leslie, but it's what was happening to all of us with each other, in those moments we were shooting the original.
That's great. And it shows. I mean, all the love and the passion for the project shows throughout the entire film. You can tell everybody was having a great time, and all the cameos too. I mean, we have the iconic Robert Englund. We have Scott Wilson, who was in Exorcist 3, which is such an underrated sequel, that movie. And he went on to become even more recognized, later in his career with The Walking Dead. Herschel, right? He played on that. But how was working with him? How was having Englund there as basically Dr. Loomis? I mean, he's even dressed like Loomis, the Halloran reference to The Shining. And I've wondered this, and maybe you can confirm it or not. Curtis, obviously Kelly Curtis's last name in this movie, to the Curtis, Jamie Lee Curtis, but Kelly Curtis is her sister. And she's in a great Michele Soavi movie, an Italian film called The Sect, or The Devil's Daughter. If that name, Kelly, if that was an homage to Kelly Curtis herself, or just Curtis, the last name?
I wish I could say that. I mean, it's amazing to me that people find these connections, and like, I hadn't heard that one yet. The character Jamie, obviously named after Jamie Lee Curtis. Kelly, named after Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, Halloween's my go-to movie. I'm going to throw Jamie Lee Curtis all over that thing.
Yeah.
But and then but I didn't know that. And then other people go like, Leslie Mancuso, because this, his last name is supposedly Mancuso. Like, Mancuso was one of the producers of Halloween or something like that. Like they find
like little tidbits like that. Those are like the connections I pick up on, and like that stick in my mind, like throughout watching movies my whole life. Those little type of the web that form throughout the horror genre. And
I think and there's a lot of them in there. There's a lot of them sprinkled out through the film, but it just encourages people to find more. I would want to say though, to your question though, I mean, I think Nathan probably was going to cover this as well, but the influence of Robert and Scott, and Zelda to a certain degree, and
Zelda Rubinstein.
But more so with Robert and Scott, because Scott was there, that he became a family member. He really was sort of a father figure to all of us, and he gave his whole self. And I miss him every day. I mean, he became a real mentor to me personally, and just was such a great human being. He's just kind of what you think he is. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are watching this that probably met him at conventions for Walking Dead. he brought something so genuine and real to it. I don't think we knew how lucky we were. Maybe Nathan can chime in on that, but I don't know that we really truly realized how incredible we had this. What we were creating was with Robert showing up and giving his whole self, and Zelda being there, and Scott being such an integral part of the family for so long. Like I don't know that happens all the time.
No, it does, and I definitely want to hear, Nathan, what it was like working with them and acting alongside them, because you had Zelda Rubinstein, like you mentioned, and Kane Hodder even shows up in a brief little cameo at the Elm Street house. So, and we have that whole establishment that they're real people, real killers in this world, and that means they even name drop Chucky. So that means the supernatural exists in the world of the movie, which I'll get to later on when we talk like the ending, maybe briefly, and how we'll possibly, get the sequel, where it might go. But Nathan, what was it like working with them? Because there was a few movies like that, like Wishmaster in '97, that had a lot of horror cameos, and then after this movie, like Hatchet, that had a lot of cameos, and Englund was in all three of his movies. What was it like working alongside him and Wilson, everybody?
It was a massive affirmation of what I think everybody was vibing on, which was a sense that this is really something special, and this doesn't happen every day, and it feels like we've got the possibility of being on board of something really great, a big wave, and a board that's built for it. And the perfect set doesn't come along very often, as Stevie will attest. And so yeah, the addition of Robert Englund to it, which was such a legitimizing force to
just knowing that you got him,
knowing
interested,
just knowing that he read that script like I did and went, oh fuck yeah, yes, yes, absolutely, of course
we would love it too, because it really is such a great script.
Right.
I can't say that enough.
It's a rare script, and it was a special script, and so it was a no-brainer to want to be involved in the project. And I honestly couldn't believe that I was the one who got the pick to play this guy, because it just felt like it was just a no-brainer yes project. When Robert Englund jumped on board, yeah, awesome. Scott Wilson, I don't think I had tons of heads up that he was going to be on the project, but we kind of jumped into scenes with him pretty quickly. And I mean, he was literally airdropped into the shoot, and in 2-3 days at the most, I want to say,
really,
he was shot out, and it was so impactful. And he just like zoomed in, took his heart, put it out on the table for everyone to play around with, and then put it back in his chest, and then zipped out. I mean, he didn't phone it in. He brought so much
heart to it. Even though he is a retired killer, I mean, he's
the mentor. He's a mentor. Scott Wilson is a mentor as a person, and Eugene is a mentor.
Yeah, and Wilson just shines through, and that's why, like you said, Stevie. I can't. What is it again? Your last name? How do you say it? Stevie.
Stevie. Yeah. You got it.
Really,
like Stevie, like Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder. Stevie Vaughan. Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie Nicks.
Yeah. It threw me off the spelling there. But how'd you go about getting some of these cameos, like Kane Hodder and Zelda Rubinstein? I think that was her last movie, right? Her last film? Yeah. How'd you go about it? You just reached out and said, I have a small part for you. Would you like to play it?
Our casting directors, Marissa Ross and Matt Skrbalik, were fantastic. I mean, we had the presence of mind. This is more Scotty's arena. I mean, he was the driving force behind this. He was essentially, basically, the sole producer, just sort of willing this thing to happen. But we had great help, and we knew, we had great people around us, and Matt and Marissa, they came with ideas. We knew we wanted to go after Robert. We knew we wanted to. We tried this doesn't come up very often. Interestingly enough, before Scott Wilson, we were really close on Pruitt Taylor Vince for Eugene.
Okay.
It didn't work out ultimately, but also would have been great. But we're glad the way things worked out. It was largely casting saying, well, let's come up with a list. But Robert, we knew I mean, if you get Robert Englund, that people will rent your movie just because his name's on it. I mean, let's be real. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But that brought up a question. Was there any other people you tried reaching out to that you couldn't get for whatever reason, or people you had in mind and it didn't work out?
Man, I don't really.
Well,
I don't
something funny is that Robert Englund was first offered the role of Eugene, which he turned down.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Right?
Yeah,
isn't that
we
how
thought he would be the mentor killer? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting, but I like the heart, just the feeling that Wilson brings to the role. I can't imagine it another way,
And Robert Englund playing Donald Pleasance is really funny. He had a hoot playing that role and giving homage to Donald Pleasance.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's become such a cult classic among slasher fans, especially, and horror fans. I feel it's a crime. I keep saying it, that it didn't take off the way it deserved to and the way that it should. But now we're finally getting a sequel, right? Behind the Mask 2. What is it? The Return of Leslie Vernon is the title, right? So I don't know how much you can talk about that, but maybe you can tell us the long journey, which I know it's been, because I've been hearing about this sequel for a while, for years. And, you'd hear rumors, and then it would go away for a bit, and it would come back. So what's it been like trying to revisit this whole world and try to do something new with it?
I mean, it's been, legitimately a labor of love my whole career. I mean, this is something that, when we were working on the first movie, Scott and I were already started kicking around ideas like, well, what are we going to do for part 2? What are we going to do for the sequel? And, we tried, there was a graphic novel, which I honestly didn't realize it's right here. I promise this wasn't a prop, but
nice.
there was a graphic novel.
I never knew there was either.
Yeah, so it was a six issue comic graphic novel that was adapted from the original sequel script that I'd written, and we couldn't get finance. We couldn't get it off the ground, and because Behind the Mask didn't do very well. So nobody wanted to, and this is kind of really before true independent film and crowdfunding. We just, that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And so we kind of said, well, Scott had the idea of like, well, let's make it a graphic novel, and we'll put that out there and see if we can generate an interest. And it also essentially kind of worked as a storyboard for the film. Okay. And it just, it just didn't work. And that level of frustration of, the fan base grew over 20 years. We didn't, we won a lot of awards. We did really great at festivals, but there was no, the release was kind of flubbed and it went away really quickly. And there was no fan base back in 2008, 9, 10, 12, right? It was slowly building, but it wasn't sufficient. And there was no social media. So it just existed.
Not like it was today.
And it was just bubbling underground. And I've said this before, but there was like a sort of a dark stretch from, I want to say like 2015 to like 2018, 19, really, where I had kind of lost all faith that we were ever going to do a sequel. And it just kind of kept, I don't know, the fan base kept growing despite us. It's funny. Somebody said that Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon is a gateway horror film. Like it's a horror film that if people don't like horror, you can get them to watch this one, and they're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
I think it's kind of funny that we're like a gateway horror, but it became clear that the fan base was growing, and then this 20-year thing was looming, and we had done a 10-year anniversary at South by Southwest, which was really well received, and it became clearer when we got to like 2020, 2021, 2022. It was like, man, 20 years is coming up, and there are a lot more fans out here than we realize there are. And I had done a short film called Wait For It, which Nathan was kind enough to participate in, which was set in the Leslie Vernon universe. Yeah, and it was something that I wanted to do just as a screenwriter to sort of increase my toolbox. And, I didn't really know it at the time, but it was just a little sort of a nod to, I love all the moments in slasher horror, like especially old school, that sort of lead up to the jump scare.
Yeah.
So it's all those moments. So I wanted to create this sort of homage to all these moments that you see over and over again, the cliche moments, the trope moments, leading up to the jump scare and then kind of not really delivering on it. And the idea is that it's this girl who's just going about her regular life on like a Wednesday in March. There's nothing looming, but she knows that killer, the tormented her, is out there. So it was an exploration of what's it like for a survivor girl. But it just ended up being a perfect sort of a segue in the Leslie Vernon universe because, no spoilers, but, Nathan was kind enough to participate in it in a pretty significant way. And that short film, wait for it, got noticed by Aaron Kuntz, who's one of our producers at Paper Street Pictures. And then he reached out and said, hey, I'm really a big fan of Behind the Mask. I saw David did this movie. Does he have any interest in making a feature film out of Wait For It? Which I did not. There was no script. It was just a short film. Yeah, and I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do? And I just sort of panicked. I'm like, I don't have a feature for Wait For It, but the only thing anybody ever asked me about is how come there hasn't been a sequel to Behind the Mask? Would you want to do that? And he immediately was like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm absolutely. What do we need to do? And so that was sort of the impetus. And that was like back in 2022 or 2023.
Yeah.
And that process really rekindled it. And then it became apparent that, we had to do something for 20 years. Scott got on board. So we started to catch fire. We got that passion back. And here we are. It's taken a long time. And I think we finally cracked the code on both the, what needs to happen to these characters, but also for us personally in our careers. I think we're like, okay, we got to do this. Like, if we don't do this at 20 years for the fans, we're what are we doing? We owe them everything we need to deliver this.
And it just, and it just feels too, like you said earlier, both of you guys, everyone involved put everything into this movie, the first one here. And it was such a passion project that of course you're going to have those feelings for yourselves too, that let's do this. We want to do this finally. And now that we can, hell yeah, let's put it out there. So how far out are we looking? Like, what's it looking like with the second movie?
We're hoping to shoot this fall, September, October, and we're hoping to, get something that, the target right now, and no guarantees, a million things can go wrong in the world, but we're hoping to get something in, fall 2027. We want to be able to say, sort of accurately, hey, it's been 20 years, here you go. So we'll see. We got a lot of bridges to cross, and we're just going into pre-production now, and it's we had a great Kickstarter. So it's moving. It's just the process is it's painstakingly slow. It's just I want to get this thing going, but there's a lot that needs to be done first.
Yeah. I'm guessing
this is basically the next couple of months are basically the quiet before the storm.
Okay,
is how I'm looking at it.
And how are you, Nathan? How are you prepping, getting back into this character and getting back into this role? Because obviously we don't know how he's coming back or anything, but I brought up earlier about the supernatural existing in the world of this movie, in its universe, because not only is Freddy mentioned, but Chucky is name dropped specifically. So that means voodoo and stuff has to exist in the world of the movie because Chucky is a thing.
Does it though?
I don't know, but that's what I take from it a bit, unless it was something that wasn't thought of at the time. I don't know.
You may be right. A lot to be seen, but I would
say...
I
don't want to... Yeah, if that's something, I don't want to get any more into it.
Well, no,
but I like how those are dropped, those names.
I would say this just fuel for thought is that I think one of the things that Leslie Vernon as a character and is sort of established is that he's meticulous in his preparation. And I would just
I know exactly where you're going with it too.
So
you don't have to if you don't want to. So, I know where you're going.
Magicians are, David Copperfield really didn't make the Statue of Liberty disappear.
Exactly.
So ruined that for everybody.
Wait a minute.
He did.
I watched him.
Right.
I watched it.
Right.
It wasn't there.
Leslie might be a magician, maybe he is supernatural. I don't know.
I thought Leslie was a real killer because I watched that. And I just watched it again. It's actually on in the background right here on the TV. But I thought of that too and said, all right, there's definitely ways of... You left a lot of ways there open to return to the character without it being like a prequel, or you can mix it up and have a bit of both in it, which is, that's, I guess, the fun part of it, right? Of returning back to this project and being able to do maybe some things a little differently if you look back 20 years and say, oh, we could have done, maybe improved on this, and then just new ideas that I'm sure, and you said, have been brewing in your guys' minds for a very long time now.
Mhm.
Well, like Stevie was saying, a lot of what worked the first time around was drawing as many parallels as possible between the true our experience and our characters' experience, and just kind of portraying that personally and genuinely. And so I think that sensibility is still there in the sequel. I feel like we're answering the really critical questions of why now 20 years later, and how could we what kind of mechanics are required in order to justify Leslie and Taylor being back in each other's proximity when he burned her so bad last time, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But but yeah, it's, I think, going to be really more meaningful if I can be as Leslie as possible, if that makes any sense. I was on a run the other day.
I mean,
I was on a run the other.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was working on my cardio. Honestly, 2
Okay.
days ago, I was in the middle of a run, and
You got to get ready physically.
Honestly, and I had the thought, you know, the totally vain realization. I should probably give Scott a call to find out, are there going to be any shirtless scenes in the sequel? Because if there are, you know, I gotta do, you know, something about that. It's just it's not an overnight thing. You got to put some work into the shit and whatnot.
Oh yeah, of
so
course.
I was like,
Oh no, JT, what he's talking about is like shaving and oiling his chest.
Is that what it is? Sorry. I mean, he doesn't want to fully go there, so thank you, Stevie,
He's
for
not going to go
bringing
to
it
the
out.
gym. He just wants to know how can he make it look oily.
Yeah. How could it presented as great as possible? Here's me shirtless and Leslie Vernon.
But
too.
it's funny, you know. I confess it was a very vain consideration. I was like,
but
I'm really gonna call Scott and go like, hey man, am I gonna have a shirt this scene? Because then I gotta hit the gym and blah blah blah.
That shows how you get into that character, though. Because you think of a detail like that.
Put in a shirtless scene.
Well, I played
in shirtless scene.
I played the conversation.
I like the Norm Macdonald
with Scott in my head to its logical conclusion, where I realized, you know what? How about if I just be Leslie? So if, you know, Leslie has shirtless scenes, that's fine. Leslie's just fine. You know, but it made me work harder on my run, and I realized, well, if I'm Leslie doesn't hold back. Leslie pushes. So, yeah.
I mean, it shows, again, like I was saying, it shows how much preparation and the things you think of. I mean, that's a small detail to think of while on a run, but you do think of it, and it plays into your whole process of getting back into that character, even if it is just to look good with suntan lotion and shit all over you, smathered.
Well, man, I'm 52 years old, and so it's so hard.
Man, we're holding up well, dude. We're holding up well for 50-year-old dudes. We're fine.
There you go. I'm 37, so I got a little bit to go till I get there, but I'm looking forward to it. So, any other details about Behind the Mask 2? I don't want to get really into, because we got a decent bit to go, maybe till next year. But is there any other projects that you guys have wanted to do, or any other projects in the works, whether it be a short film? Anything like that, anything that anybody can catch you on.
Stevie, you got a script that's burning your hands up?
I mean, I would say in the short answer is, we're obviously very focused on this.
Yeah.
But I think, and on that note, I want to mention, I think one of the things that, is probably going to consume a lot of our time and effort is that we're making a really concerted effort with Return to involve the fans. And if you had backed us on Kickstarter, you're going to get access to a private Discord channel. We're going to be trying to do real behind the scenes stuff, and I mean not just capturing some cool footage and putting it on an extras feature on a DVD. We're talking about, we want people to have access to understand what we're doing, even including days we're shooting. We're going to be posting and answering questions and doing AMAs and things like that with Gordy, our composer, or Travis, the production designer, or Aaron and I talking about, hey, we missed a half a day of shooting today because it started raining. Like, how are we going to make this up? Like, we really want to bring not only the fans of Leslie Vernon, but also independent horror filmmakers and people who are aspiring to do that, because we're trying to do things a little bit outside the box and very differently. We don't have studio backing. This is essentially largely going to be funded sort of, not internally is not the word, but it's more private equity and crowdsourcing than it is, there's no studio giving us $10 million to go make this thing. And then the distribution on the other end too. Where Scott has a company called gather.com, which specializes in direct to audience distribution. So, you're not, typically the situation is you go to a festival, you generate a bunch of buzz with your movie at a festival like we did, you get some awards under your belt, and then you sort of turn it over to sales agents who try to sort of start a bidding war for who can get the best distribution deal. Unfortunately, what that does is it creates this rift where you do great and you generate all this momentum at festivals and fan buzz, and then it's sequestered away because you can't let anybody have it, nobody can see it, and so you lose all that momentum. And then somebody releases it, it gets a distribution, and then after that sort of played itself out, you have to regenerate all the buzz. And then after that's played out,
then and goes kind of.
And then like after that's done, like the scraps of it, once the scraps are left, you're like, okay, now you can go distribute it direct to consumer because we've already tapped out on the run. Scott doesn't want to do that this time. I mean, they're making a very concerted effort to say, we're going to make this movie. We're going to let the fans be involved along the way. They're going to understand what's going on. We're going to generate the buzz as we're doing it. We go the festival routes, we'll do a release. That's great. Hopefully that brings it home and we deliver on the promise. But immediately then, instead of waiting 6 months for distribution, immediately when the poker is hot, we say, now you can go to gather.com, or we're going to distribute direct to, I don't know, I'm making this up, but Regal Cinemas or something like that, some way we can deal with independently and just get it to. We want this to play in Tulsa. We want this to play in, your rural Illinois. We want this to play not just in college towns and your multiplexes. We want it to get organically back out to the fans who got us here. So long-winded answer is saying that what we're consumed with right now in the next year or two is making sure that we're providing access to the fans to actually see how this is happening.
Yeah, I think it's great that you guys are showing so much, behind the scenes stuff, and also just for coming on, interviews like this and talking about the movie and about the sequel and generating some hype for it, which I've noticed since this movie came out, because I think I saw it maybe a year or two after it came out, something like that. And there were a few people in the horror world that, saw it, enjoyed it, really liked it. And then over the last decade, though, I've seen much more love and appreciation for it every year, basically. And now it's to that point that, like, I think of Leslie Vernon's character, like, not Art the Clown. I mean, he kind of was an enigma lately, but like Victor Crowley and the Djinn from Wishmaster, ones like villains from horror movies that were so well acted, such great performances, such great movies, and just for whatever reason, just, didn't enter the zeitgeist the way that it should have and it deserved to, or that character deserved to.
I go in a different direction, JT. This is crazy, but I throw out I don't know how you're going to react to this. I throw out The Big Lebowski. I throw out, Office Space. The sort of the track has been like, did you see The Big Lebowski? Like, that character is so freaking awesome.
Oh, years ago. Though.
Yeah, that's very.
Seen it in a while.
But it's the same sort of cult track, right? Like, that's what happened with
the
Leslie
way that
Vernon.
it followed. The critics didn't care for it that much. The audience had kind of missed them a bit, and then the love just starts accruing over the years. Favorite horror films? We'll end with that. Both of you guys. Top horror movies. Doesn't have to be on the spot, number one, nothing like that. But
I always go to
Halloween.
Exorcist is probably, it's number one spot, but sometimes, something will. But a movie I've been thinking of a lot recently is Poltergeist, and that movie just really imprinted itself on me, and I've been thinking a lot of it, a lot more of it recently, and I want to go back and rewatch because man, it just made such an impression on me, that movie, for so many reasons.
I mean, I gotta say Halloween, like I said before, but the Shining is right there. And then, you know, crazy as it sounds, as a third one is Frankenstein, like the Boris Karloff. That had a really big impact on me when I was a kid. Like that's one of the first horror movies I saw where I realized, like, hey, it's fun to be scared. So I think those three are my big ones.
Great 3 picks there. Halloween was my first. The Thing overtook it.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
a few years later as my favorite. That's my favorite film ever made.
Oh, man.
But I mean, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on, talking about this movie. It's been a pleasure chatting with you guys and hearing, you know, everything.
Hold on, you know, I had a question for you, JT. I had a question for you. How did you discover Behind the Mask? Like, how did you find it? I didn't hear if you covered that.
I mean, it's 20 years ago. I don't know, but probably just word of mouth, or just like back, that was early internet days where there were horror forums and stuff like that, because I've always been a fanatic with film, and specifically horror though. But somehow through the grapevine I heard of it, because it wasn't like it was on, you know, cable or it was on a streaming service back then. So maybe it was recommended by a friend, but it was definitely probably word of mouth, or I read about it somewhere. But now, just like, it's great seeing this movie and a lot of other movies from the last 20 years getting a lot more love and recognition as the years are going on. And I'm so glad it's happening for you guys, and I'm so glad that we're getting the sequel, and that you guys are just as excited for it as we are.
We owe it to everything. We owe it to the fans. We owe the fact that we're here talking to you right now. We owe that to 20 years of organic fan support. I mean, that we know why we're here. We know who got us here. So the thanks go both ways.
It's great, and I look forward to the sequel. Any other news on it when it comes out, I look forward to that. And if you guys want to throw me, if there's any other, I don't know if the Kickstarter ended or the funding you had ending, but if you have anything else or links, anything like that, I'll throw it in.
We it officially closed, but there are certain tiers and
yeah, there's late pledges are still enabled on it. That's going to probably go through.
So you can go to what is it? Leslie Vernon
Returns,
and that'll send you over to the Kickstarter.
Perfect. I'll throw that link in the description of the video also. And I should have this out later tonight. So I'll shoot you a message, Nathan. Sorry I don't have your information, David. We gotta fix that after this. But I'll send you the link for it. You guys can share it wherever. And
at Leslie Vernon Returns is also the Instagram. LeslieVernonReturns.com is, you know, that's the official, that will become the official website. Right now it's still linking to Kickstarter, I think. But yeah, that's the best way to see the latest. And then Discord. There is a Behind the Mask 2. Yeah, that's Behind the Mask 2 on Discord.
Interesting. All right, I'll put all 3 of those. All the links that I can find, I'll throw in the description. Cool. Yeah, we need as many people and fans behind the sequel as possible, because we've been waiting a long time for it. But David Stieve and Nathan, thank you so much for coming on. These are the guys behind the mask, the Rise of Leslie Vernon, the Return of Leslie Vernon. Thanks. Have a great night, and stay on for a minute, and I'll thank you guys again while I end this.